Hey everyone, welcome back to Earth Turtle. The next few episodes we will look at early humans. Today we will focus specifically on the species that were ancestral to modern humans. Last episode we discussed the Quaternary period. This episode completed our tour of Earth's geological history. We also looked at the climate, plants, and invertebrates of the Quaternary. We also looked at the large mammals that were thriving at the beginning of this period. Humans are primates. The primates consist of apes, monkeys, and prosimians, which include lemurs. We are most related to apes. We have a common ancestor with apes that lived around 6 million years ago in Africa. Humans differ genetically from chimpanzees by 1.5%. Around 10 to 5 million years ago, Earth had a cool and dry climate. This allowed for a greater spread of grassland habitats. This led to an adaptation of bipedalism in primates, which is walking on two legs. This led to the appearance of the first hominins. Hominins are modern and extinct human groups and their close relatives. They evolved from apes around 8 to 6 million years ago in eastern Africa. Australopithecines afarensis appeared in eastern Africa around 3.7 to 3.5 million years ago. This region included what is now Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. This early hominin stood at around 3.5 to 5 feet tall. Its characteristics include its bipedalism, it had shorter legs and longer arms than modern humans, and it had an ape-sized brain and large dentition. The most famous specimen of this species is nicknamed Lucy. 40% of the bones from this specimen were recovered. Let's take a look at the genus Homo. Members of this genus first evolved around 2.6 million years ago. This was around the time of the earliest evidence for tool usage, such as shaped rocks. Humans belong to this genus, and the human species name is Homo sapiens. Encephalization is the evolutionary growth of the brain. Plant-based diets required more metabolic energy for digestion. Diets that involved meat allowed for less energy to be used on digestion. This allowed for more energy to be put towards the growth of the brain. As human ancestors began to move to a more omnivorous diet, more energy was being put to the growth of their brain. Homo habilis is recognized as the first member of the genus Homo. It had slightly larger brains than Australopithecines. It stood at around 3 to 4 feet tall. It lived in what is now eastern and southern Africa. It lived around 2.64 to 1.64 million years ago. Its name means handyman, for the evidence supporting that it used tools. Homo ergaster evolved not too long after habilis in Africa, around 1.8 million years ago. This species was smarter and built better tools, such as the hand axe. This species expanded into Eurasia from Africa. The most famous specimen is the Turkana boy from Kenya. It stood at around 5.5 feet tall and is more complete than Lucy. The skeleton of this species demonstrates longer legs and shorter arms than its predecessors. It also had less hair cover. Homo erectus evolved around 1.7 million years ago and lived up until 140,000 years ago. It lived in what is now China and Indonesia. It is thought to have evolved from Homo ergaster. This species was around 5 to 6 feet tall. Characteristics of its skull include a thick brow ridge, broad nasal bones, and a large, wide jaw. Homo heidelbergensis evolved around 600,000 years ago and lived in what is now Europe and Africa. It most likely evolved from Homo ergaster, and it is most likely the last common ancestor of humans and Neanderthals. This species stood at up to 6 foot tall, was well muscled, and had thick, heavy limb bones. Fossil evidence suggests rough physical activity within this species. There are also indications of hunting from marks on nearby animal remains. Homo neanderthalis evolved in Europe around 430,000 years ago and lived up until around 40,000 years ago. They most likely evolved from Homo heidelbergensis. There are numerous entire skeletons and fragments from over 275 specimens. Neanderthals stood at around 5 to 5.5 feet tall. They had heavily muscled arms suited for physical activity, such as hunting. They had short, stocky bodies adapted for colder climates. There's evidence that Neanderthals used animal bones as tools and spears for hunting. Our species is Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens evolved in Africa around 300,000 to 250,000 years ago. They are the only surviving species of the genus Homo. We'll explore Homo sapiens in further detail in the next episode. And that is it for today's episode. Join me in the next episode where we'll focus specifically on early members of our species, Homo sapiens. Thanks.